property management. And again, yesterday I told you how contracts was a big part of the exam and how contracts is in several different chapters. Then the actual contract section is everything that was pretty much left out that's on the exam. You're also going to find contracts in leasing and property management. We've already covered a general agent and types of agent. So what is a general agent? What is a general agent? Property manager. They have general duties. What is their primary responsibility? Get the highest net return for the owner. Thank you. You guys are awesome. Here's your basic duties a property manager has. Remember, property managers are general agents. Collect rent, set rent, adjust rents. Finding tenants, screening tenants, leases, complaints, emergencies, move outs, evictions. Supervising employees, again, vacancies, managing budget, maintaining records. When a property manager collects money from or collects cash rent from a tenant and the property owner sees it, asks for it, should the property manager give it to the owner of the property? No. Who does she give it to? The broker. That's it. In property management books, it says that you're responsible for taxes, and I don't want to include that. So I, instead of tell the property owner what to do, assist the property and educating property owner and educating himself on what to do and to go seek a tax expert is the way that I would word it. If you're going to be in fact, if you're going to be in any real estate, start learning your taxes in real estate. Start learning the things that you can do, the things that you can write off. Because most of you are going to be independent contractors. And I want to make sure you know you're independent contractors. You're responsible for your own bills. I do not want another phone call 6 months from now on, you guys, asking me where to send your expense report. Because you're responsible for your own expenses. Your own expense report is for you. But look online, look up taxes. And real estate agents, brokers that are in business right now, you guys might want to go on the IRS website and look at the Payroll Protection Act. Because there have been some brokers who were given, I know, up to $20,000 for that right now, and some brokers and some agents. And it's not a well-spoken program that's out there right now, and it's in the form of a forgivable loan after 6 months. Well, for us anyways, for some people. So look it up. All right, I hate to see you guys walking away without getting something that the tax law at this point in time is giving you. All right, so look that up. All right, you have to be knowledgeable in landlord tenant law. And in your post courses, we cite certain laws for Mississippi. But for your exam, you just need to know that each state has their own landlord tenant law. And this part's not on the exam, but your Mississippi's landlord tenant law is one of the reasons we chose Mississippi. It's a landlord tenant laws seem to lean either in the landlord's favor or in the tenant's favor. And Mississippi law respects the investor. Whereas some states like California doesn't respect the investor at all. And everything, every penalty and every fee goes on them. All right, so you guys in Mississippi have great landlord tenant laws, which is great for when you're going to be owning your income property. All right, so that's just for you know. And before you start investing in other states, check out their landlord tenant laws. Okay, make sure that you can actually evict non-paying people, or you can evict people doing drugs. You don't have to pay for their treatment. All right, you guys get it? All right, so anyways, this is a tip. Here are the types of lease agreements. A gross lease. Oh, I think it's gross that I have to pay my tenant's water bill, gas bill, electric bill. It's when the tenant pays a portion of the tenant's expenses. We never did that until we moved to Mississippi. We couldn't figure out when we started renting out our townhomes, how come no one had the deposit to move in? And we had to turn down a bunch of people because they didn't have the deposit to move in. Until we found out that for some people, turning on your electric, your gas, and your utilities could cost upwards of $500. It was amazing. We never knew that. We've never seen that before. So what we do now, instead of, I'm just going to give you fictional numbers, instead of asking $800 for the rent with a deposit and having you, the tenant, responsible for your electric, gas, now we charge $925 a month, and all your utilities are included. All right, see how that works? And that works for the tenant, and that works for us, where we do get our security deposits. So one of the questions is going to say what type of lease tends to be more expensive than a regular lease or for that particular neighborhood. It's going to be a gross lease. It's going to be when the landlord's paying your utility bills, water, gas, electric. The rent is typically higher, but that's the only cost for the tenant. A net lease is what we have here in this center, where the commercial tenants are responsible for some of the landlord's expenses. We pay, it's called CAMS, Common Area Maintenance. We're responsible for the lights in the parking lot, make sure that they're maintained, parking lot's clean. Okay, so if you see triple net, that means taxes, insurance, and common area maintenance. We're just common area maintenance, CAMS. Net or triple net lease, commonly used in renting commercial space. You won't see that in residential. A percentage lease is what Dillard's is on. Dillard's pays a small amount of rent every month, and then whatever their sales are, the percentage of their total sales, they have to pay as rent. Okay, so it's a percentage lease, percentage on what they make. A ground lease is a long-term lease. A lot of times you'll see 99-year leases. Okay, here's a question. On what section in a governmental survey system would you most likely find a ground lease? 16. Section 16. If section 16 is not needed for the schools, the city may go ahead and lease land for 99 years, and people will build big homes on them. The people that live there are paying a rental for the land, but they own the building. 99-year leases. You also have oil and gas or agricultural leases. There is a specialty in oil and gas leases in southwestern Mississippi and New Orleans, or in that area where all that gas leases are. There's people who have come through here, that's all they do is oil and gas leases. In the state of Mississippi, you don't have to have a license for oil and gas leases. But technically, is oil and gas considered real estate if it's in the ground? Sure, absolutely. A proprietary lease is a lease that you're going to see in a cooperative or a co-op. And a co-op is personal property, remember? Co-ops can look like condos, or can look like anything, really. Any type of residential properties, sometimes commercial properties, where you don't own the building. The people that live there don't own the building. They own stock in the company that owns the building. The people that live there are given a proprietary lease to live there. Index lease, it could go up and down based on some type of economic index. Graduated leases, we've seen these. We did have one here in our last rental, where they're usually community neighborhoods or community stores like strip centers, where the landlord lives in the community also. And what they did, I'll give you an example. What they did for us on our last location, but the guy sold it, was our issue. But what he did was he allowed us to pay our first 6 months at a lower rent, then it went up a little bit the next 6 months, and then a little bit after that, and then it capped out where it's going to be for the next 4 years. You did a graduated lease in Arizona?
Me, my sister, and my a couple of our friends, there's like 5 of us, we all paid about $500 a month, and then it gradually, increased over a certain amount of months.
For a commercial space?
Actually, for just regular residential space.
Residential, that's
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, because in Arizona, it's a growing city, so
Right.
they realize that the land around them is growing, so they might as well up it.
Right. Up your rent every 3 months, 6 months. That's in residential situation. But you will actually see a graduated lease, say at the top, graduated leases in commercial. But yeah, I see definitely. It's insane. Phoenix, how's Glendale doing? I know that was about ready to blow up. Wow. Oh, Scottsdale, I thought it was done 10 years ago.
It's about like 4 million for a house.
4 million. 4 million per house. Okay, thank you for that. Okay, but you're going to see mostly on the test, you're going to see your graduated leases in a commercial area. Rent increases, the way rent increases is if they don't have enough vacancy, they think their rent's too low, so they have to increase it. Is that interesting? If your rent didn't go up at the end of your lease, it's because they have too many empty. But if they filled them all, watch out. Right? Because they want to have property managers in the big, large complexes. They actually want to have a few empty units because they want to prove to themselves that, okay, we are at the top of what the market can bear. That's how it works. Thank you for that. Lease with an option to purchase. That's an option, right? What's an option? What type of contract is an option? Unilateral contract. That's right. Okay, we're going to go from types of leases to leasehold estates. How do you hold it? How long do you hold it, basically? Okay, so here's your types of leases we just went through. We're going to move it to leasehold interest, and we'll break these all down. Leasehold estates. Let's start with tenancy for years. First of all, it is a contract. Your lease is a contract. Leases are contracts. Tenancy for years, the first one. Tenancy for years does not have to be a year. Tenancy for years means that there's a definite beginning and a definite ending. It can be January 1st to January 30th. It can be from Monday to Friday. It can be from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. It has a definite beginning and a definite ending. But since we have the word years up here, let me ask you a question that you're going to see on your exam. You guys all know about 1-year leases, right? Okay, here's your question. How much notice do you have to give the landlord if you plan on moving out when your 1-year lease is up?
None.
There you go. None. That's right. All right. So be careful of that because a lot of people go 30 days. It's like, no, it's up. Okay, it's up. Well,
when do you have to give 30 days?
When do you have to give 30-day notice? When it's written into your lease, when you have a periodic tenancy, like month to month, week to week. Okay, and it's going to be based on what is in your lease. Okay, a lot of month to month will say you have to give us 30-day advance notice that you're leaving. That's where you'll see a lot of that. But your 1-year lease is basically that everybody knows you're leaving in a year. If you want to stay, you might want to contact the landlord, right? Yeah, and pay rent. Huh?
If you after the lease is up and you give them a check and they cash it, then it's
that's right.
Implied.
Thank you so much. If it is implied, if your lease is up, your 1-year lease is up, and you go to the landlord and you pay him the rent again, starting after that lease is up, it's implied that you are now on a month to month. Right? It's implied. Excellent. Thank you. Okay, good. So that's a periodic. Holdover tenancies. Oh, they won't get out. Get out. Okay, holdover tenancy. You want to evict that person. Estate at will. I've done this several times. I've turned so many of my renters into property owners. More so in California than here, but I have. And a lot of times I'll say, you got to use me, and they'll use me, but then they'll say, I'm not closing in a couple days, but their lease is out like last week. Can I stay another couple of days? Sure. It's just basically verbally we're talking to each other. Yeah, you can stay. I don't care. And I'm not collecting rent on them. So it's just like tenancy at will. It was just usually very informal. Just let me know when you're going to move out so I can just put the, for rent sign up. Tendency for sufferance, you're making the landlord suffer. Get out. Mississippi is a great eviction state where it blew my mind how we can put a notice on the door. A week later, we can go to the court and the court says, do you want them evicted today? And they can be evicted that day, which is it depends on how you treat the landlord is actually what your response to that is going to be. If it's an eviction because the landlord knows what's going on and but we just can't pay for it or afford it anymore, it's a lot nicer as opposed to the person getting evicted that ran around the carpet pouring red Kool-Aid all over your carpet, or cutting the wires behind your refrigerator and pushing it back, or doing things to blow up your unit. We tend to put those people out immediately. All right, so if you are in a situation, you have tenant friends are in a situation, maintain communication with your landlords. I know we've helped people move, we've helped all sorts of things, help them get Section 8, help them. If you're nice to your landlord and you fall into a hardship, chances are your landlord's going to be a regular human being and have some compassion, show some compassion. They have to protect their interests, but it's not going to be evil. You guys get that? All right, so anyways, tenancy is suffering and eviction is coming. An actual eviction is when the landlord files for suit of possession. That's when the landlord's going to court to file for the eviction. And a constructive eviction is when the property is so unsafe to live in that the tenant can file for constructive eviction, go to court, and not be responsible for the remainder of the lease. Those are in slumlord situations. And we've only run across one tenant that was in a slumlord situation. And we had a buyer that was going to buy, I think it was like 6 or 7 units down by the railroad tracks in Long Beach, which is scary, kind of scary because you use eyeballs, guys. Which is kind of a scary neighborhood, but to some people, I'm good with it. But when my buyer went through with the agent from my office, everybody was evicted, but there was one Spanish woman, single mother still there that no one knew about. And I guess when she got the notice, she couldn't speak English, so she had no idea what that notice meant. And there were fleas all over the baby legs, and I mean, it was just horrible. And my agent and the buyer took her to our office, and we called that guy up and paid for her to go somewhere else, because he could have been sued, constructive eviction, slumlord type stuff. So we ended up putting her into another client's property and getting her, some financial help and a whole bunch of stuff like that. But that could have very easily have been a constructive eviction. Okay, so be good to people. Oh, go ahead.
Would that also work in case of flood, earthquake, or mass damage?
Sure, sure. Would that work in earthquake, flood, or mass damage? Absolutely. You see, it's scary to live there, or it's unhealthy to live there. The roof's caving in. That property. Good thing that wasn't a demolition notice that went out to that neighborhood. She would have been in there for demolition. Think about that. You guys, before you tent or termite a place, go in and make sure. Because I've seen when people have it, make sure all the cats are out, make sure all the dogs are out, make sure all the people are out. All right, because you don't want traumatized people, you don't want hurt animals, right? Okay, because it's careful. All right, so that's that chapter. Why don't you guys take 5 minutes, and then we're going to move on to another one.